Dearest Queers, happy Monday, happy Monday morning, good morning. It is August 3rd and I'm wearing flannel. It's true. I'm getting a little preview of what lake life in the fall is going to be like this morning, so I'm bringing you into that with me. I'm Doolin. I'm a healer and mentor, and I work with queer and trans folks struggling with feelings of disconnection and loneliness, dishing all of the tips around connection and to help folks live their best relational lives. I bring a spiritual slant and a trauma-informed lens into my work as well. So thank you for joining me here this morning. This is a live series that I do weekly, and this is based on questions that folks submitted to me about loneliness and disconnection. And so that's where the questions are coming from you all, sourced directly from you all. And so today's question is, in the absence of physical community, how do I find ways to feel whole, safe, calm, and valid? And I want to add that the original question that came in, I tweaked it a little bit to be palatable for social media and easily readable. But the original question that came in was the person asked if I, Gray, had witnessed, especially trans folks, finding ways to feel whole, safe, valid, and calm in the absence of physical community. And so that portion, moved to the asker, as I always say, I see you and I love you and thank you for asking this question. And first, I want to hit on that portion about feeling have I witnessed that in community, because that makes me feel extra tender about the question and the asker, because I feel like what is really being asked there is, is this possible? Is this possible for me, especially as a trans person? Is it possible for me to feel okay? Is it to feel okay in the absence of physical community? Can I feel valid without physical community? Can I feel safe and can I feel calm? And I feel yeah, that question about possibility is just, I feel like it's the crux of everything. Because if we don't have hope or the possibility of that this thing is accessible to us, or that this freedom on the other side of healing exists for us, then there's no hope. There's nothing to move into from that place. So I want to say to the asker of the question, it is possible. Yes, it is possible. And have I witnessed this in trans folks? I have. I would say that the N is pretty small, that the number of people is small, but it is possible, and that I am one of them. And if you need someone to hold that possibility for you, this beacon of hope and light that it is possible, that's what I'm here for. I'm absolutely here to do that, and am currently holding that for you. So I just want to name that and be really clear about that. So I've shared before that in my own healing journey that there wasn't some model of trans wellness on the other side that was lighting the way, and that I was heading towards, and that the reality that I saw around me in community was actually confirmed quite the opposite, right? And so just witnessing and experiencing a lot of trauma and a lot of struggle and a lot of pain, and I say all of that with just bucket loads of compassion and love, because I have my own experiences and also a systemic awareness and understanding about why that is the case. And so I don't come in with judgment about that's what I was witnessing around me, but I really had to search elsewhere for an alternate narrative to say, these things are possible for my life even though I'm not seeing them around me. I know that there is freedom from healing, the freedom that comes from healing on the other side of that is possible. And I had to hold faith in that other way to sort of carry me through that all of the love and support and healthy relationships and living into my purpose and all of the resources that I was desiring, that all of that was very possible for me. And so I had to be the beacon for myself and hold that light. And I will share that the name that my parents gave me at birth, we used to have these cross-stitched name placards up in our hallway, of all of our family members, and mine means bringer of light. And so I hold the truth of that name, of that essence in my body, and carry that with me. It feels very hermit card, my lantern lighting my own way. And also, side note, which is one reason why I don't use the name or the term dead name at all, because and no judgment to those who do, it fits and is very appropriate to different folks' trans folks' experiences, but that name and that person is not dead to me. They're very important part of my evolution and my essence. So I just wanted to share that aspect as well. And so that story, it feels really important to me, especially for queer and trans folks, to to like know that like I said, that freedom from healing like is possible, and that feeling whole and safe and calm and valid on your own, on our own, is an absolute possibility. And like it's here and it's waiting for you. And I'm like I said, I'm here to like help hold that possibility and vision with and for you, like while, we're getting that sorted out. So second, I will never ever minimize the importance of the role of support and community in our lives, like ever, especially as marginalized folks, especially as queer and trans folks, like so essential. Like the mirroring of our possibility and our worth and our goodness is like 1000% essential and necessary, both for our survival and our thriving, and especially if we didn't get that from our family or our caretakers, and it certainly is not being reflected yet at the level that we deserve by the world around us, and so like we need that even more from one another. Extremely important part of our identity development, right? Just to have someone or someone's via community like hold this reflection like while we begin to integrate and build that solid foundation for ourselves. I've used the metaphor, I think it was in the first Dearest Queers I did, the metaphor of like a bucket with holes in it, right? So like if we are that leaky bucket, or the bucket that has the holes in it, community or supportive others begin to like kind of patch up or plug up those holes. And so that's like can be the role, right? So if we have a sort of cracked foundation, that like repair can happen in helping us build our foundation. However, and this is really important, we are still the bucket, like we are still the vessel and the container. Like that's really important to highlight, because what I see a lot of and have experienced and have even done myself, and it's often disguised under this like community care, is that like we really want other people to be our vessel, to like be our bucket, to be the whole container for us, to say, I'm just gonna like hand over all of this to you. But like we are the vessel and the container and the bucket, and like we are responsible for that foundational piece. And if our bucket is so holy that it like can't hold anything, like that's like a good indicator about where the work is and like where the work starts, right? And so the community piece is huge. We need to see ourselves reflected, and we also need to be doing our own work to strengthen that container or that vessel, so that we can like hold those reflections and that care, because otherwise people are just pouring and pouring and pouring in, and like we're consuming and consuming, and it's just flowing right back out. So there's no like there's no foundation to begin to hold that. So it's a both and process. It's not we must get all of this from community, we must do all of this for ourselves. It is like it's a dynamic and interactive piece. But we just oftentimes what I see get thrown out first, or there's not even it's not thrown out, it's just there's no awareness that like we have to be doing that individual work while we're also engaging in community. There's just a lot of like, I want this, I want to outsource all of this to other people, and it doesn't work that way. So no one, not a person or community like can or ever will be the source of our wholeness, our validity, our calmness, our sense of safety, ever. We are the sources of those things. It starts here, and like our outside world reflects what's happening inside. And so a question for you, dear asker, and for the rest of you listening, like what does it look like to begin to cultivate a sense of wholeness for yourself? Like what does safety feel like in your body? So those feelings of validity that you experience when you're in the presence of physical community, how do you begin to conjure that feeling when you're on your own? Like what does that look like? And how do you choose that today you're going to feel valid? How do you choose that? Or I choose today to feel safe, or I choose today to feel whole on my own. I want to like say a quick thing, a quick caveat about choosing our feelings, because this feels really important to me with this like the trauma-informed lens that I bring here, is that when I first started starting on my sort of like spiritual awakening and emotional mastery path, like it really pissed me off, this idea of like, oh, I can just like choose how I feel, right? So I felt like I was doing something really wrong, because no matter how much I wanted to feel happy or joyful or gratitude, I continued to feel like shit. So that, because I couldn't do that, it made me feel extra broken, like I was doing something wrong and it wasn't available to me, and really added to that feeling of like hopelessness about like, I don't see this around me, like this is never gonna, like this isn't for me, like it's not for me. But I want to say that like most, or probably all of the content that I was consuming at that time, Like it wasn't trauma informed, and it came from folks who had very different life experiences than I did. Like i.e. a lot of like privilege in ways that I didn't, especially around like queer trans identities, right? So in that work, I just felt like deeply and wholly unseen and like didn't understand why the strategies that they were talking about wouldn't work for me. So if you have a lot of trauma in your body that you like haven't worked out, like you're going to need to process and clear and move that stuff out. Like it's a both and here again, right? So when I talk about this intentional work that I've done and people are like, well, what does that mean? Or what does that look like? So when we're talking about shifting mindset and all of that, it's like, it was like 4 years of really intentional work, including intensive EMDR and mindset work, and then choosing to make behavioral change. So all of that together, like 4 years, while also choosing my feelings and shifting my stories and shifting my narrative. So again, these are dynamic processes. And I want to be like really clear about that like if anyone wants to like love and light you, like without a trauma informed lens or keen understanding of what it means to move through the world with your identities, just like don't internalize that shit. It can be really harmful. Um, However, I will continue to talk about choosing to feel valid or choosing to feel worthy or choosing to feel whole because it is possible and available to us. Some of us just have more groundwork to do to get to that point than others. And so I want you all to know that because that like that hope and possibility feels really important. So to wrap up the question that was asked, so in the absence of physical community, how do I feel safe, valid, whole, and calm? You do the work to become the sources of those things yourself. That is the answer to that. You learn what it feels like in your body to feel safe and to feel valid and to feel calm, and you work on nurturing those feelings within yourself each and every day. And then you clear out the junk that comes up in response to you nurturing those feelings in your body. So often to feel safe, we need to clear out our feelings of being unsafe. Often to feel whole, we need to clear out what it means to feel broken or unwhole, whatever the opposite of that is, and that or how you hold that. Again, depending on where we are, and if we are further along or in a different place in our healing journey, then we have access to just choosing to feel whole and moving from that place to say, I've done the work to be here, I feel worthy, and that's how I'm going to move through the world. So it really depends on where we are in our healing. And there is no hierarchy. It's not better or worse. It's just about like where we are in our own journey and process and path. So becoming the source of those things for ourselves doesn't negate the need for support and community. Like, hear me on that. We absolutely need that. Like, we need to be like, we need our visions to be held by other people and to be loved up in all of that. But we really need to watch this balance of like looking for these things outside of ourselves in order for us to feel whole or to feel valid, safe, etc. Like just like where is our, where are the scales on that about how much we're getting that from the outside versus how much of that we're sourcing for ourselves. So just to really pay attention to that. And the beautiful thing about community and support in that is that we get to allow them to hold us like while we are building that foundation for ourselves. So that's what I have for today. I'm wishing you all a very happy full moon in Aquarius. If this brought up any additional questions for you, or if you have another question about relationships or loneliness or disconnection, I'm open to them always and love to receive them from you. I would love to address them on here. And if you know of someone who like needs to hear this message today or would really benefit from it, I'd love for you to share this with them. You can find me on Instagram at Doolin. These episodes are also posted on YouTube by the same name, Doolin, so you can subscribe there and catch them. I love you all so much. You're doing great work. I will see you next week.